What up, YouTube? It's your boy Javon, and you're back for another installment of This and That. As you can see, I'm in my O'Shea Jackson bag, right? I'm in my Doughboy. I made Doughboy, but don't call me Doughboy kind of state of mind. And I just wanted to touch bases with you and tap in with you guys on another very important topic that's I've been kicking around on my Facebook lately. So, surprisingly, I've been generating quite a bit of interest from some of my male colleagues and old school, military friends about this topic of dietary practices and more particular whether or not to transition to plant-based foods or to flat out veganism versus being carnivorous, as most of us are these days, and running the risk of developing something that I'm trying my best to stave off. Okay, so I've been tinkering with my diet, so to speak, even though I hate the term diet. It just sounds so restrictive, but that's I guess what a diet is, restrictive. But I've been dabbling in some vegetarianism. I made a couple of lifestyle changes, and most of the decisions that I've made that I've stuck to as far as lifestyle changes and dietary habits has to do with what happens when you become a middle-aged man, right? In which we start to recognize our own mortality and we start thinking about the end of the road, so to speak. And so as I've entered squarely into my 40s, I'm thinking more and more about how long I would hope that God would give me grace to stay on this planet called Earth. And so to be honest, and I don't want to, they say you can speak things into existence, but to be honest, if I could get 30 years more out of this, I'd be a happy camper. So one of the things that is really, really starting to come into my consciousness is the epidemic that black males, spoiler alert for those of you that don't want to hear about what's going on in the day in life of black males, except for rap music or all the other things that society tends to splatter on the TV screen and across the airwaves about us. If that's not what you're into, then this is probably not the vlog for you to listen to. But I want to speak squarely from a black man's perspective because I am a black man. And one of the things that I do is I try to place myself in different veins of consciousness and to hear alternative thoughts. And so one of the things that I do quite frequently is I listen to conservative talk radio. I also make sure that I'm dibbling and dabbling through different little rabbit holes here on YouTube, looking at things that are just outside of the typical envelope of the average black male, so to speak, right? I guess we shouldn't be stereotyping, but I'm gonna stereotype that way. All right, if you got a problem with it, that's on you. But what I do know is I've been hearing more and more statistics about what befalls black men outside of violence, and it has to do with disease, right? So in particular, there's three diseases that I'm trying, well, three categories of disease that I'm trying to stave off. One is heart disease, which is very, very tough, especially for black males, just due to our dietary habits and other lifestyle habits. Two, cancer. And then three is, what's the third one? Obesity. Okay. And so when you hear numbers. People throw numbers out all the time. You throw polls out, you throw numbers. You never really know what is accurate and what's not accurate. But I tend to listen to a whole bunch of this and that and then try to come up with some common themes, right? Or come up with some mediums for you mathematicians. And so I've been hearing a lot more statements like 1 in 4 black men are developing some sort of obesity, right? 1 in 3 cancer of some sort, and hypertension, heart attack, stroke. Like we're like at the top of the list with that. And one of the common denominators in that is lifestyle and dietary habits. And so I've had to really look at what hill I'm willing to die on, so to speak, right? I pretty much lived the last 10 or 15 years of my life with the attitude that I'm just going to get my ass up out of bed every day and go hit the gym and work out, and that'll offset the trash food that I eat, right? But I want to clear up this misconception, gentlemen. If you're one of those individuals that thinks or is thought the same way, I'm going to get up, I'm going to go run, I'm going to go do something active, I'm going to go lift weights, right? Run around, play sports, and then I'm still going to engage in a totally poisonous dietary lifestyle. That's a mismatch, okay? Because here I was thinking, all right, if I'm lifting weights, if I'm going out and playing basketball, et cetera, right, I'm being active, right? That means that I should be fit. I'm having blood flow. It's supposed to increase blood flow, which is absolutely correct, right? That's what cardiovascular activities do, right? They promote good blood flow. Here's where we get the misinformation, and here we don't understand that one's a square and one's a circle, and so they don't quite fit. When you have an unhealthy dietary lifestyle, the stuff that you eat, the stuff you stuff in your face, actually clogs up your arteries, right? So it's impossible to have good blood flow, right, if the things that you're eating are starting to narrow out the actual pathways for the blood and oxygen to flow through your heart. So I've seen a number of documentaries. I mean, I've seen more documentaries than I care. Like every time I see another documentary, it just totally changes my mind about the last documentary that I've seen. So now I'm convinced that it's just a Alice in Wonderland type of scenario where one day I'm going to be in my garage with a whole algorithm about how to stop people from eating whatsoever and just survive off of like water or something, right? We're destined to get that way because every time you say you read something or you consume some sort of video that says, oh, this is the best dietary habits for man, this is what was designed for us to eat, then there's these opponents that are like, no, that's totally terrible, and here goes the stats to prove it. Then there's the proponents that's like, no, we want to second and double down on this. So I find myself really going in circles about this. But one thing that I do know, and the one thing that has been the consistent thing, is that eating pork and eating red meat has been disastrous for black males, okay? And unfortunately, what I also know to be true is that a lot of the times once a person speaks with their doctor and the doctor says, hey, you know what, you have been I want to diagnose you with this, whatever this is, most of the time the first thing they do is they want to get aggressive with you changing your dietary habits. And so for me, I don't want to consume pharmaceutical capsules and pills and all this other crap in order to try to stay alive. I feel like I need to get on the front side of this as I'm moving closer towards 50, in the next 6-7 years, what have you, and then on in the 60s, et cetera. I know I have to take a little bit more responsibility for what it is that I put into my body. I mean, I've put so many terrible things into my body, served my country, who knows what they've pumped into my body, against my own goodwill, but it's just, part of being the temporary slave, right? But I digress from that. What I want you guys to focus on is the reality that what is being done to the meat industry, what has been done, what has been the common practice of the meat and poultry industry has an adverse effect on us as black men. There's so many different things we can point to historically as to how we found ourselves in this position to where this is what we crave to eat and this is what we've been programmed to eat. But the reality is that there's just something about red meat that doesn't really sit well with us. It increases hypertension, obviously, definitely with our cultural practices of how we season stuff, right? I'm pretty sure that also, is a helping hand in our demise. But then, also things like pork. And there's individuals that can look at spiritual and religious texts that speak against pork. So it's not necessarily just the medical field, that the medical industry that talks about how bad pork is. I mean, to me, it's like a no-brainer. So as I'm trying to figure out how I can kind of mitigate this damage that I've done to my body, the one thing that I know for sure is that eating pork and eating red meat It's a no-no. So what I did about 3.5 weeks ago is I called myself just eating meat altogether out, cold turkey. That's it. I'm a Taurus. I got this stubbornness that I can will myself through anything, which is true. But I say this a lot. I don't want to be right. I want to be correct. And so for those of you that don't know the difference, people, when they think they're right or they want to be right so bad in the eyes of the public, they'll argue something they know not to be true if they think they can still look right in the situation, right? We've all had that argument with somebody that you just couldn't talk them out of something, even though they knew they weren't right. But someone that wants to be correct has to be willing to be corrected. And so I'm constantly searching for ways to consume information that is accurate and true and things that I can digest and, kind of it makes sense in my mind and I can apply it to my life if I feel like it's something that is necessary and something I can do. And so I tried to just give up all meat altogether and just start with a plant-based diet from the ground up and interjecting these Beyond Meats and these like veggie patties, veggie burgers, all this stuff that to the naked eye it looks just like the stuff that we've been eating our whole life, but apparently it's not the same. And in my effort to rob Peter to pay Paul, I realized that I kind of got off of the original mission because although I was no longer consuming any meat of any kind, I went and spent a fistful of money on some Beyond Meat products and some vegetarian-based things and went through those in maybe 3-4 days. And then I went to my local grocery store that I go to quite a bit and started getting some stuff that at first glance looked to be comparable. Next thing I know, I got my deep freezer full of stuff. I'm in my own little pocket. I'm not eating meat anymore. I got these little supplemental things. I'm like, I learned from the last time I didn't eat meat. I made the mistake of filling that hole on my plate with more carbs, which was counterproductive last time. So this time I was like, you know what, if I can get the fake meat, season it up, make it taste palatable, and then do that, at least I'm moving forward. Did that for about almost 3 weeks, no problem. But then I happened to look at one of the packages after I got done pouring the contents out, put it inside of the trash, and looked, and right there in bold face print said that it was a soy product, which I was trying to stay away from soy as well. That's a whole another thing worth talking about. But to make a long story short, soy products have been proven to elevate estrogen levels in men, which is a huge no-no, right? Huge no-no for middle-aged men, right? We busy trying to hold on to the little bit of testosterone that we got left, right? And so if you go ahead and you imbalance your body by eating these products, consuming these products that overload you with estrogen, I mean, who knows what can happen? Like, you can just wake up one day and be like one of these youngsters, right? I mean, I kid. Like, not all the youngsters are. Well, a lot of them are. But teach their own. But for me, I don't want to be that way. I want to be a whole dude. I want to identify as a middle-aged black man. That's who I identify as, all right, ladies and gentlemen. So with that being said, I kind of felt disappointed in myself because I was like, I'm trying my best to align my dietary habits in a way that are going to be conducive for me to live a more plentiful and a more healthy life. But I'm trading in this one thing for this next thing that's going to do worse. Excuse me. And so, like anybody that is now faced with defeat, I looked at it and I was like, man, fuck it. So I took all those products, threw them all in the trash, mad. What am I going to do? I don't want to just eat plant-based stuff in of itself all by itself. One, because I've never really been a just veggie guy, right? One thing that became the gift and the curse for me that my grandmother helped me to develop was this love for V8 juice, right? So when I was a kid, I didn't really take to vegetables like 99% of other kids. So my grandmother tried force feeding me the stuff first, and she would be so upset every time she found all the vegetable stuff in a napkin underneath the table or hidden somewhere a couple of days. Once it starts rotting, she's pissed off at me. So finally, she was like, well, I'm gonna get some V8, drink some V8, tell me if you like it, right? Because one of the things that we did, you grow up in the hood, you grow up in a low SES environment, right? Grilled cheese and tomato soup has always been a lick, always. So had no problem with tomato products. So when she bought the V8, I had no problem with that. And from that point forward, when I wanted to appease grandma, I just went and drank the V8 that she bought for me. So I can drink V8 until I turn to V8, not a problem. Only thing with that is that it has never really allowed me to, prepare my palate for all of the various vegetables that people that love vegetables consume. So I'm very, very, very limited on the types of vegetables that I actually can enjoy while I eat. Right, I do got a handful of them that I go to on a daily basis, but now I have to supplement my vegetables with stuff like V8, and I'm cool with that. But that's not the type of tools that you need to be armed with if you're gonna go vegan or if you're gonna go a hardcore vegetarian. I just don't like chewing on a bunch of asparagus. That's just not who I am. And I don't like kale. I mean, these things that I must ingest, right, that are superfoods, I prefer to put them in a blender or into my NutriBullet. And so I go that route with my vegetables. But that brings me back to my quandary about what to do with that hole in my plate. And so, again, I went down this rabbit hole looking at, what is the alternative, which is chicken, right? Chicken is usually what individuals cling to when they're like, I must have the meat, right? And so I went down this whole rabbit hole for about 2 days where it talked about the antibiotics that's pumped into it and the fact that the bacteria that are present in all meats are finding ways to adapt to the antibiotics and they're becoming super duper terrible bacterias and how that can affect the person long term, right? Colon care, etc. But I'm like, if I'm gonna feel that, I would much rather fill that hole with just baked chicken. So I said, you know what? Let's get away from the fried chickens. Let's get away from anything other than, bacon, the chicken breast, not the dark meat, the white meat, etc. So I said, okay, I'm going to introduce chicken back into the game. And then I went and started looking at some stuff, some of the proponents of turkey meat. And of course, there's a wide variety of turkey meat, the same way there's a wide variety of ground meat as far as how much fat is trimmed from it. And what I came across is that turkey meat, for the most part, is very, very clean. Right, and if you prepare it the right way, then you're doing yourself a service, and you can pretty much sculpt it into whatever type of display you like, to make it aesthetically pleasing, so that you can eat it. Right, turkey burgers, turkey dogs, turkey meatballs for if you want to have spaghetti meatballs, etc., etc. And so I say, you know what, I'm gonna keep it real with myself. I'm gonna be honest with myself. I'm gonna look at not taking a huge L, but taking a small L for the sake of being able to buy myself more time to continue to research. And so as of 4 days ago, I put chicken and turkey back into my diet. But my agreement with myself is that I will have that only with one of the two as one of the meals each day. So I still have two meals that are devoid of any kind of meat products. But the reason why I make mention of these things is because I'm sure some of you out here that decided you're going to give up meat at some point in time, or you're thinking about it, right? And what are the prime movers? What are the things that are going to cause you to either stick with it and try it legitimately, or you're going to be like, man, the hell with that dog, man, we all die from something. And so I want to bring it back to the number one thing I'm trying to duck and dodge, which is cancer, okay? Because all these statistics I've been looking at and all these things I've been hearing on the radio and on documentaries is very, very unsettling, right? And so just to give you a ballpark number for how cancer impacts the African-American community and black males in particular, it's like I said, 1 out of every 3 black males is diagnosed with some form of cancer at some point in their life. And the 3 major types of cancer is prostate cancer, colon cancer, and lung cancer, right? So 2 of those things off top, I can kind of I'm in complete control of as far as I'm concerned, because lung cancer, has to do with whether or not you consume, tobacco products, or if you're in a company of people who do that. And for the most part, I'm out the way, right? I stay low and keep crawling when dudes start to chief and all stuff. So I feel okay with the lung situation, right? Although I did spend enough time in the military at smoke decks where these personal chimneys was putting all kind of stuff up in the air, right? So who knows? But then the second thing is prostate cancer, which you kind of, if you get prostate cancer, you're gonna get it, or you're not. But the statistics say that, excuse me, black men are 76%, have a 76% higher chance than a white male of developing prostate cancer. The only good news with that is that most forms of prostate cancer, upon being detected, are things that they can treat and you'll live a relatively normal life with, right? So the rate of death with prostate cancer has came down significantly in black males, but it's still one of those things that disproportionately targets us, right? I know what a prostate is, but to date I haven't been able to find a article or look at a video that I can sit there and look at and still be entertained that talks specifically about the prostate, outside of just talking about the anatomy of it and what it does, right? So I kind of feel like, if the prostate thing shows up, it shows up. I do get checked for prostate cancer. I've been getting checked for the last 4 years, which is early. They're usually saying you're not supposed to check for prostate cancer till you turn 50. The moment I turned 40, on my 40th birthday, bam, I told the doc, hey, doc, I need to check for prostate cancer. He said, you sure? And I was like, yeah, it's just one of those things I keep hearing about. And with black males, and he's like, yeah, but it's kind of early. And I'm like, listen, I grew up with terrible health care to no health care, right? I wasn't showing up at the doctor unless it was near death. So now that I got some good coverage, I want to utilize it. So if we can do some pre-screening, let's do it. So from there on, every year when I go in for my annual prostate check, right? Up to date, nothing except for a very, very bad experience with the actual carrying out of the process. But aside from that, cool. Which leaves me with the one that I'm really, really concerned about, which is colon cancer. Okay. And so it says that 24%, black males have a 24% higher chance of our white counterparts of developing colon cancer. The reason why the colon cancer thing is like, is because flat out that has to do with diet. All right. Anybody that knows what the colon is, anatomically speaking, if that's a word. I mean, I feel like that's a word I heard somebody say, anatomically speaking, before. So I feel like, yeah, that's what I was supposed to say right now. So, I'm a history teacher. I'm not an MD. But based on the anatomy, it makes sense, right? That's where we would have the issue. One, because of lifestyle, and because of dietary habits. And so for me, I've been kind of in control of the lifestyle, right? I don't consume alcoholic beverages or any kind of drugs or anything like that. Haven't done that for a number of years. And so I'm not really concerned there. But everything that we eat has some sort of contact with the colon. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, all these years that I just been oblivious, or all the years that after I came out of being oblivious and I was just standoffish and was like, no, I'm gonna do it anyway. Who knows what type of damage I've done. The one thing I know is I have, in spurts, trying to be proactive about it, trying to have been proactive about it, for a period of time each year. For several years, I would go get a couple of hydrocolonic cleanings, right? The hydro colon cleanings, right? Very, very uncomfortable, fellas. Very, very uncomfortable. But it does have some immediate health effects that, are positive. And so I haven't, I don't know why, but for like the last COVID, that's why. I was about to say, I don't know why I haven't had it done. But for the last 2 years, I haven't had it done. But I think I might jump back into that game, right? Because the diet is the thing that exhausts our colon, okay? And so if there's anyone out there that's like, what are some of the incentives for me giving up some types of meat or all meats, right? Flat out, the meat is one of the biggest culprits for us developing various types of colon cancer. Okay, and so no matter what rabbit hole I went down, no matter who I've heard pros and cons, that is where all fingers are pointing at as being one of the key contributors. So right now, like I said, I'm walking this walk. I'm trying to retool, continue to educate, continue to gain more information and more insight each day that I can. But I do know that I do feel a lot better not having the red meat, not having the pork, right? I feel I can notice that I don't have as much of a bloat in, my digestive tract after eating, 3 to 5 ounces of chicken or whatever, or some ground up turkey, XYZ, along with whatever other parts of the meal that I consume. Like, I can notice that it's not so much of a heavy task to process. For those of you that know about the itis, right? I'm gonna keep it at the itis, but if you grew up on the block or associate with somebody that's from the block that translated, what the itis is. One of the key contributors to the itis is your body having to break down that meat. That's why it's no what's the word I'm looking for? It's no wonder after having a great day out at the cookout or the barbecue, you get that itis once you sit down on that couch for a minute, because your body literally has to shut it down in order to process all that meat and all the other terrible stuff that us black men have been trained and brought up to eat and consume as a part of our culture, right? So for any of you that I've talked to, whether it was just a quick little tap on a post, or something that we sat and kicked around on the phone, or something that is piqued your interest, I would strongly encourage you to jump on the wave to educate yourself on the health benefits of getting rid of red meat, for sure, getting rid of pork, for sure, and continue to research the chicken, the turkey, and the fish. I mean, all of them have some pluses and minuses, but to me, those are more tangible for me, right? It's helping me to stay a little bit more vigilant with trying to, find a good dietary path. And it's I hope it's buying me some time, right? Until I can get to a place where I maybe can wean myself off of all meat. But to me, just going completely cold turkey and all that without having conviction for it, and without having an absolute love for vegetables, is a recipe for disaster. And so, like everyone else, I'm a work in progress, ladies and gentlemen. So I just wanted to touch base with you and fill you back in and where I'm at with it. Today was a good day for me. I didn't even have any meat today, and I was solid. And it wasn't even like I planned it out of my meals. It was just the stuff that I ate today didn't even require meat. So I was like, why go and cook some meat or pull something out the refrigerator and fry it up or bake it real quick, just so that I can say I got meat on the plate. So for anyone that's thinking about walking that walk, you just gotta jump in, figure it out along the way. As long as you can swim, ain't no problem with jumping in. You understand what I'm saying? And hopefully we can be preservers for one another. I would love for some of you Facebook aficionados to chime in and give me your input on it, and let me know your findings and what you're doing, what's helping you out, and we can continue to build and talk story that way. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm out of here.